The fastest path to six figures no one talks about. Most people believe making six figures means working harder, longer hours, or being the absolute best at what they do. That belief will cost you years of your life. I spent the first part of my career believing the same thing. Work harder, get better, climb the ladder. The money will follow. Except it did not follow as quickly as I thought. I watched people with less experience, fewer credentials, and honestly less skill than me land better opportunities and higher salaries. For a while, I thought the system was broken, or that I was missing some secret connection or advantage they had. Then I realized what was actually happening. They were not better at one thing. They were decent at multiple things that work together. This audiobook is for professionals who want to earn more without sacrificing everything to climb a brutal, overcrowded ladder. If you are waiting for a promotion, hoping your hard work will eventually pay off, or wondering why less talented people seem to make more money than you, keep listening. This is not for people who love their current path and just want validation. This is for people ready to rebuild their earning strategy from scratch. Here is what we are covering today. First, why competing to be the best at one thing is often the hardest path to six figures. Second, a different framework that lets you increase your market value without becoming world-class at anything. Third, the exact skills worth stacking and how to choose them. Fourth, how to turn multiple average skills into a rare, high-value combination that commands better pay. You do not need to pause or take notes. There is a toolkit in the description with all the tools, frameworks, and a 7-day checklist. You can download it later and use it when the timing is right. Later in this audiobook, I will give you the 2-minute version you can execute today, plus a 7-day plan for building your first skill stack. But first, let us talk about why the traditional path is broken. The problem and the real cause. You were probably told that if you work hard, get good at your job, and keep improving, the money will follow. That advice is not wrong. It is just incomplete. The usual path to making good money works like this. You provide value by solving a problem. You get better at solving that problem. The better you get, the more you can charge. Eventually, if you reach the top 1% of your field, you make excellent money. The issue is not the logic. The issue is the competition. In almost every profession, most of the money goes to people at the very top. A tiny percentage of lawyers, designers, engineers, consultants, or sales professionals capture most of the earnings. Everyone else fights for the leftovers. The gap between top performers and everyone else is massive. Consider professional sports. Making it to the Olympics is already nearly impossible. But the financial difference between finishing first and finishing fourth is staggering. Sometimes the performance gap is 1/10 of a second, but the earnings gap is millions. You do not need to be an Olympic athlete for this to apply. The same pattern shows up everywhere. The top consultants at a firm get the biggest clients. The top salespeople get the best territories. The top developers get acquired or hired by elite companies at 3x the salary. Look at law. The top partners at major firms make millions per year. Associates at the same firm, doing similar work, make a fraction of that. Same education, same hours, sometimes even the same quality of work. The difference is positioning and leverage, not just skill. Or consider design. A freelance designer charging $50 per hour might work 40 hours a week and gross $100,000 per year before expenses. A designer who understands branding and business strategy charges $5,000 per project, completes 2 projects a week, and grosses $500,000 per year. Same design skills. Different positioning. Different income. Being in the top 20% of your field is often enough to make a good living. But getting there requires years of focus, and staying there means constant competition with people who are willing to sacrifice almost everything. You are not broken if you do not want to do that. The system is just misaligned with how most people actually want to live. Here is the real cause of the problem. The traditional model assumes you will dedicate your entire life to mastering one skill. It assumes you are okay with brutal competition. It assumes your field will stay stable and valuable for decades. Most professionals are not in that position. Most people want financial security, sure. But they also want time with family, hobbies, health, and a life outside of work. Most people do not want to compete with workaholics who treat their career like a religion. And here is the other issue. Even if you do reach the top, industries shift. Technology changes. Consumer preferences evolve. What was valuable 10 years ago might be commoditized today. If you built your entire career around one skill, and that skill becomes less valuable, you have to start over. That is a massive risk most people do not talk about. So what is the alternative? The framework, skill stacking. Instead of trying to be world-class at one thing, you combine 2 or 3 complementary skills that are individually above average. This is called skill stacking, and it works because good plus good often equals or beats excellent in the real market. Here is the core framework. Skill stacking has 3 parts. Part 1, anchor skill. This is what you are already decent at. Your current profession, your main expertise, the thing you have done for years. You do not need to be the best, but you need to be competent. This is your foundation. It could be anything. Software development, graphic design, accounting, teaching, sales, project management, writing, engineering. Whatever you have been doing professionally, that is your anchor. The key here is that you are not starting from zero. You already have credibility in this area. You already have experience. You are not a beginner. You are at least in the top 30% of people who do what you do, even if you are not in the top 1%. Part 2, Amplifier skill. This is a new skill that makes your anchor skill more valuable. It could be business knowledge, communication, marketing, sales, or any skill that multiplies the impact of what you already do. Think of this as the skill that turns your competence into higher earnings. An engineer who learns sales can sell their own consulting services instead of waiting for a boss to assign projects. A designer who learns copywriting can charge more because they deliver both visuals and messaging. A teacher who learns video production can create online courses instead of being capped by classroom size. The amplifier skill takes what you already do and gives you more leverage, more control, or more ways to monetize. Part 3, Differentiator skill. This is the skill that makes your combination rare. It is the thing that few people in your field bother learning, but that creates a unique market position. This is where you separate from everyone else. Most people in your field have the anchor skill. Some have added one amplifier. Almost nobody has bothered to add a second skill that creates a truly unique combination. That is your advantage. When you combine these 3, you stop competing in the same crowded space as everyone else. You create a new category where you are one of the few people who can deliver that specific combination of value. Let me give you a concrete example. Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, describes himself as having mediocre drawing skills, average business knowledge, decent but not great writing ability, and a bit of humor. If you evaluate each skill individually, he is not world-class at any of them. There are better artists. There are funnier comedians. There are sharper business minds. But there are not many people who can combine all 4 skills to create a comic strip that makes people laugh while also bringing in millions in revenue. By stacking those average skills together, Scott entered a field with almost no competition. He became the top 1% of his new category by default, simply because his combination was rare. That is why skill stacking works. 1 average skill makes you invisible. 2 complementary skills make you more valuable. 3 well-chosen skills make you rare. Here is another way to think about it. Imagine a Venn diagram with 3 circles. Each circle represents a skill. Where all 3 circles overlap, there is a tiny space. That tiny space is where you want to position yourself. Most people are competing in one large circle with millions of others. You are competing in the overlap where maybe a few hundred people exist. That changes everything. Your pricing power increases because there are fewer alternatives. Your opportunities increase because you can solve problems others cannot. Your career flexibility increases because you are not dependent on one skill staying valuable. If you are driving or working out, just listen. The toolkit in the description has the full framework, all the tools, and the step-by-step process. You can reference it later. Now let us talk about how to actually build your first stack. Chapter 1. Choosing your amplifier skill. The first step is identifying which skill will amplify your current expertise the most. You already have an anchor skill. That is what you do now. Maybe you are a software developer, a graphic designer, a project manager, an accountant, or a teacher. Whatever it is, you have invested time into it, and you are at least competent. The mistake most people make is thinking they need to get even better at that one skill. They double down. They take advanced courses. They chase certifications. They try to outcompete everyone else doing the exact same thing. That is the hard path. The easier path is to add one skill that makes your current skill more valuable without requiring you to become world-class at anything. Here are the most effective amplifier skills. Tool 1. Business and financial literacy. What it is: understanding how money moves, how businesses operate, what drives revenue, and how to manage risk. This includes basics like pricing, profit margins, cash flow, negotiation, and understanding what clients or employers actually care about. Business literacy is not about getting an MBA. It is about understanding the fundamentals of value creation and exchange. Here is what business literacy actually means in practice. You understand that clients do not pay for your time. They pay for outcomes. You understand that pricing is not about what you need to earn. It is about what value you create for the buyer. You understand that a business survives on profit, not revenue, so you think about margins and costs, not just top-line numbers. You understand leverage. You know the difference between trading time for money and building systems that generate income without your direct involvement. You understand that scale matters. Serving one client for $10,000 is very different from serving 100 clients for $100, even though the revenue is the same. You understand basic negotiation. You know how to anchor a conversation, how to frame value, and how to walk away from bad deals. You understand risk. You know how to evaluate opportunities based on upside potential and downside protection, not just excitement. Most importantly, you understand that business is about solving expensive problems for people who can pay to have them solved. That shift in thinking changes everything. When to use it? If you are currently an employee trading time for a fixed salary, business literacy is the skill that lets you transition to freelancing, contracting, or running your own operation. It is the difference between being paid for your time and being paid for your results. Here is why this matters. As an employee, your income is capped by your salary and your hours. You can work harder, but you cannot make more unless your boss decides to give you a raise. You have no control over your earning ceiling. As someone with business skills, you can set your own prices, choose your clients, and scale your income by improving your positioning or your efficiency. You have control. Example: a graphic designer who only knows design will charge by the hour. Let us say they charge $50 per hour. They work 40 hours a week. That is $2,000 per week, or about $100,000 per year before taxes and expenses. That is a fine income. But it is capped. They can only work so many hours. If they want to make more, they have to raise their rate, which is hard in a competitive market, or work more hours, which is not sustainable. A graphic designer who understands business will charge based on the value they create for the client. They will ask questions like, what does this design need to accomplish? How much revenue does your business generate from this marketing material? How much does a new customer cost you to acquire, and how many customers do you expect this design to bring in? Then they will price accordingly. Instead of charging $500 for 10 hours of work, they charge $5,000 because the design is expected to generate $50,000 in new revenue for the client. Same design skills, but 10x the price because they framed the value differently. That is what business literacy unlocks. It is not about working harder or being more talented. It is about understanding how value is perceived and how to position yourself accordingly. 7-day mini experiment. Spend 20 minutes a day this week learning the basics of business finance. Read one book on pricing strategy, listen to a podcast about freelancing, or take a free online course on business fundamentals. By the end of the week, write down 3 ways your current skills could be monetized differently if you understood business better. Do not try to become an expert. Just consume enough content to start seeing your work through a business lens instead of an employee lens. Common failure mode and fix. People think business knowledge means getting an MBA or reading 50 books. That is over-investing. The failure mode is waiting until you are an expert before applying anything. The fix is to learn just enough to make one shift in how you price, position, or deliver your work. Start with 70% knowledge and adjust as you go. Business skills are not theoretical. They are practical. You learn by doing, not by studying. Tool 2. Persuasion and communication. What it is: the ability to explain your ideas clearly, sell your value without being pushy, write emails that get responses, present to groups without fumbling, and negotiate without folding. This is not about being a smooth talker. This is about being understood and getting people to act on what you say. Communication is the most underrated professional skill. You can be brilliant at what you do, but if you cannot explain why it matters, you will lose to someone less skilled who can articulate value clearly. Most professionals are terrible communicators. They use jargon, they focus on process instead of outcomes, they write long emails that bury the point, they present slides full of text that nobody reads. If you can communicate clearly, you are already ahead of 80% of your competition. Here is what good communication looks like. You lead with the outcome, not the process. You explain what changes for the listener, not what you did. You use concrete examples instead of abstract concepts. You remove unnecessary words. You make it easy for people to say yes. Good persuasion is not manipulation. It is clarity plus empathy. You understand what the other person cares about, and you connect your value to their priorities. When to use it: every time you need someone to hire you, approve your idea, pay your rate, or take your advice. If you are good at your job but no one knows it, or if people do not seem to value what you do, this is the skill you need. Example: 2 consultants with identical expertise pitch the same client. One explains what they do using jargon and complex frameworks. We leverage synergistic methodologies to optimize your operational efficiency through data-driven insights and cross-functional alignment. The other explains the same thing using a simple story and focuses on the client's pain points. You told me your team is wasting 10 hours a week on manual reporting. I will build you an automated dashboard that cuts that to 30 minutes. That gives your team 9.5 hours back every week to focus on revenue-generating work. The second consultant wins the project, not because they are more skilled, but because they communicated value more clearly. Same expertise, different framing, different outcome. 7-day mini experiment. This week, rewrite one piece of communication you send regularly. It could be your email pitch, your LinkedIn summary, or how you explain your work at networking events. Cut 30% of the words. Remove jargon. Focus on outcomes, not process. Send the new version and track if you get better responses. The goal is not perfection. The goal is clarity. Can someone who knows nothing about your field understand what you do and why it matters? If not, rewrite until they can. Common failure mode and fix. People think persuasion means being extroverted or charismatic. The failure mode is avoiding this skill because you think it is not authentic or that you are not the right personality type. The fix is to realize persuasion is just clarity plus empathy. You do not need to change who you are. You just need to explain what you do in a way that connects to what the other person cares about. If this is useful, subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell. It helps more people find these audiobooks. Tool 3. Writing and content creation. What it is: the ability to write clearly, create content that educates or persuades, and build a body of work that demonstrates your expertise. This includes blog posts, case studies, social media posts, newsletters, or any format that lets you share what you know. Writing is not just for authors or journalists. Writing is leverage for any professional who wants to scale their reach beyond one-on-one conversations. Here is why writing matters. A conversation reaches one person. A piece of content can reach thousands. A conversation happens once and disappears. Content works for you repeatedly, 24 hours a day, for years. Most professionals underestimate the power of writing because they think it is about being creative or having perfect grammar. It is not. Writing is about documenting what you already know in a way that helps other people solve problems. If you can solve a problem for a client, you can write about how you solved it. If you can explain your work to a colleague, you can write about your process. If you have an opinion based on experience, you can write about why you believe what you believe. That is all content creation is. Taking what is already in your head and making it visible to others. When to use it: when you want to attract clients, build your reputation, or create assets that generate opportunities without you actively looking for them. Writing is leverage. One good piece of content can reach thousands of people and work for you while you sleep. Example: a financial advisor who only meets clients in person can only serve a limited number of people. There are only so many hours in a week. Their income is capped by their availability. A financial advisor who writes articles about tax strategy, retirement planning, and investing attracts inbound leads from people who already trust them because they consumed their content. Instead of cold calling or networking constantly, this advisor wakes up to emails from potential clients saying, "I read your article on tax loss harvesting. Can we schedule a consultation?" Same financial knowledge, but one advisor has clients coming to them instead of chasing clients. That changes the dynamic entirely. You go from selling to being sought out. 7-day mini experiment. Write one 500-word post this week about a problem you solve in your work. Do not overthink it. Explain the problem, why it matters, and share one actionable step someone can take. Post it on LinkedIn or send it to 3 people in your network. Track if anyone responds or shares it. You are not trying to go viral. You are testing if your knowledge is valuable to others when you package it as content. Most people never test this, so they never know. Common failure mode and fix. People think writing means being a great storyteller or having perfect grammar. The failure mode is not starting because you think you are not a writer. The fix is to write how you talk. Use simple sentences. Focus on being useful, not impressive. Publish it even if it feels rough. You will improve faster by shipping imperfect work than by waiting to be ready. Tool 4: Marketing and Audience Building. What it is: understanding how to reach people who need what you offer, how to position yourself so you stand out, and how to build an audience or network that creates consistent opportunities. This includes SEO, social media, email lists, or any method that puts you in front of the right people. Marketing is not advertising. Marketing is making sure the people who need your help can find you. Most professionals rely on referrals or job boards to find work. Referrals are great, but you have no control over timing or volume. Job boards put you in competition with hundreds of others who look identical on paper. Marketing gives you control. Instead of waiting for opportunities to find you, you create systems that bring opportunities to you consistently. Here is what marketing actually looks like for professionals. You write content that ranks in search engines when someone searches for your type of solution. You engage in communities where your ideal clients spend time. You build an email list of people who have raised their hand and said they want to hear from you. You create a reputation in your niche so that when someone needs your skill set, your name comes up. None of this requires a big budget or a marketing degree. It requires consistency and understanding where your audience already is. When to use it: when you have valuable skills but no one knows you exist. Or when you are getting work through referrals but want more control over where your opportunities come from. Marketing is the bridge between being good and being known. Example: a software developer who only applies to job postings is competing with hundreds of other applicants. They send out resumes, wait for responses, and hope someone notices them. Most of the time, they do not even get a callback. A software developer who shares their projects on GitHub, writes technical blog posts about how they solved hard problems, and engages in developer communities gets recruiter messages and consulting offers without applying anywhere. Here is what actually happens. Someone at a company has a technical problem. They search for a solution on Google. They find a blog post written by this developer explaining exactly how to solve that problem. They read a few more posts. They think, this person knows what they are doing. They reach out with an offer. Same coding skills, but one developer controls their opportunities. The other is at the mercy of whoever happens to see their resume. 7-day mini experiment. Choose one platform where your ideal clients or employers spend time. Spend 15 minutes a day this week engaging there. Comment on posts, share one insight, or answer one question. Do not pitch yourself. Just add value. By the end of the week, See if anyone follows you or reaches out. You are testing if showing up consistently in the right place creates opportunities. Most professionals never test this. They assume marketing is too hard or too time-consuming. But 15 minutes a day is manageable, and the compound effect over months is massive. Common failure mode and fix. People think marketing means being salesy or self-promotional. The failure mode is staying invisible because you do not want to seem arrogant. The fix is to reframe marketing as being helpful in public. You are not bragging. You are sharing what you know so the right people can find you. Chapter 2: Building your differentiator skill. Now that you have an amplifier skill, the next step is adding a differentiator. This is the skill that makes your combination rare. The key here is to choose something adjacent to your main field that few people bother learning. This is where you create the biggest separation from everyone else. Tool 5: Technical skills in a non-technical field. What it is: learning basic technical skills like coding, data analysis, automation, or design in a field where most people avoid those skills. You do not need to be an expert. You just need to know enough to solve problems others cannot. This is one of the most powerful differentiators you can add to your stack because most people in non-technical fields deliberately avoid learning anything technical. They assume it is too hard, too boring, or not relevant to their work. That assumption creates a massive opportunity for anyone willing to learn even basic technical skills. Here is why this works. Most industries are full of smart people who are great at strategy, communication, and relationships. But when it comes to building something, automating a process, or analyzing data, they hit a wall. They have to wait for someone else to do it. If you can both think strategically and execute technically, you become exponentially more valuable. You do not need to wait. You can test ideas faster, move quicker, and solve problems others cannot touch. When to use it: when your industry is full of people who are strong on strategy or communication but weak on execution. If you can both think and build, you become significantly more valuable. Example: a marketing manager who can also write basic SQL queries and build automated reports does not need to wait for the data team to get insights. They can pull their own data, test their own hypotheses, and move faster than competitors. They are not a data scientist, but they know enough to be dangerous. Let me give you a real scenario. A marketing team wants to test a new campaign targeting customers who bought a specific product in the last 90 days. The marketing manager who does not know SQL has to submit a request to the data team. The data team is backlogged. They say it will take 2 weeks. By the time the data comes back, the campaign window has passed. Opportunity lost. The marketing manager who knows basic SQL writes a simple query, pulls the customer list in 10 minutes, and launches the campaign that same day. 2 weeks earlier than the competition. That speed advantage compounds. Over a year, this person tests 20 campaigns while others test 5. They learn faster, they move faster, they deliver better results. 7-day mini-experiment. Identify one repetitive task in your work that could be automated or improved with a basic technical skill. Spend 30 minutes a day this week learning that skill. It could be a spreadsheet formula, a no-code automation tool, or a simple script. By the end of the week, try to automate or improve that one task. Do not try to become a software engineer. Just focus on one small problem. Can you automate this report? Can you build this dashboard? Can you scrape this data? Most technical skills are easier than they look once you focus on solving one specific problem instead of trying to master the entire field. Common failure mode and fix. People think technical skills require years of study or a computer science degree. The failure mode is assuming you are not technical enough. The fix is to start with one small, practical problem and learn just enough to solve it. Most technical skills are easier than they look once you stop trying to master the entire field. Tool 6: Psychology and Human Behavior. What it is: understanding why people make decisions, what motivates them, how they process information, and how to design systems or messages that align with how humans actually behave. This is not about manipulation. This is about making your work more effective by working with human nature instead of against it. Psychology is one of the most useful and most ignored skills in professional work. Most people assume logic drives decisions. They design products, write proposals, or give presentations based on features, specifications, and rational arguments. Then they are confused when people do not respond the way they expected. The truth is people make decisions based on emotion, cognitive biases, and mental shortcuts. Logic is often just the story we tell ourselves afterward to justify what we already wanted to do. If you understand how people actually think, you can design your work to be more effective. You can write messages that resonate. You can build products that people adopt. You can structure offers that people say yes to. When to use it? When your job involves influencing behavior, whether that is clients, employees, users, or customers. If you can predict how people will respond and design accordingly, you deliver better results. Example: a product manager who understands cognitive biases can design features that users actually adopt, instead of features that sound good in theory but fail in practice. Let me give you a concrete example. A product team builds a new budgeting feature in their app. The feature is logical. Users input their income, set spending limits for categories, and get alerts when they are close to the limit. The team expects high adoption. But almost nobody uses it. Why? Because it requires effort up front with no immediate reward. Humans are wired to avoid effort and delay gratification. Asking someone to sit down, input numbers, and set limits feels like work. And the reward, better financial discipline, is abstract and far in the future. A product manager who understands psychology redesigns the feature. Instead of requiring manual input, the app automatically categorizes spending based on past transactions. Instead of alerts at the limit, it shows progress toward a positive goal. You have $200 left in your dining budget this month. You are on track to save $500. Same functionality, but framed to work with human psychology instead of against it. Adoption increases 10x. Another example. A manager who understands motivation can structure feedback and incentives in ways that actually change behavior, instead of just hoping people will comply. Most managers give feedback like this. You need to improve your communication with the team. Be better about responding to emails and updating the shared document. That is vague. The employee nods, agrees, and nothing changes because they do not know what specific behavior to adjust. A manager who understands psychology gives feedback like this. When you do not respond to emails within 24 hours, the team assumes you are not working on that task and they duplicate effort. Starting tomorrow, can you commit to responding to all team emails within 1 business day, even if the response is just got it, we'll have this done by Friday. That small change will eliminate 80% of the communication issues. Specific behavior. Clear outcome. Easy to execute. That is psychology in action. 7-day mini experiment. Pick one book or podcast episode about behavioral psychology this week. Focus on one concept like loss aversion, social proof, or the default effect. Then look for one place in your work where that concept applies. Test a small change based on what you learned. You are not trying to become a psychologist. You are learning one pattern that helps you design better solutions. Common failure mode and fix. People think psychology is abstract or only useful for therapists. The failure mode is dismissing it as soft science. The fix is to treat psychology as a tool for better predictions. You are not trying to become a psychologist. You are learning patterns that help you design better solutions. Quick recap. We have covered 6 tools so far. Business literacy lets you transition from time-based pay to value-based pay. Communication helps you explain your value clearly so people actually understand what you do and why it matters. Writing creates leverage by attracting opportunities while you sleep, turning your knowledge into assets that work for you repeatedly. Marketing puts you in front of the right people so you control your opportunities instead of waiting for referrals. Technical skills in a non-technical field make you rare because you can both think strategically and execute practically. Psychology helps you design work that aligns with how humans actually behave instead of how you wish they would behave. If you only do one thing from this audiobook, pick the skill that would amplify your current work the most and spend the next week learning just enough to make one small improvement. That is it. You do not need to master anything. You do not need to become world-class. You just need to add one skill that makes your existing work more valuable. Think about it like this. If you are a consultant, which skill would help you win more projects? Probably communication or marketing. If you are a developer, which skill would help you charge more? Probably business literacy or writing. If you are a manager, which skill would help you deliver better results? Probably psychology or technical skills. The key is to choose based on leverage. Which skill, if added to what you already do, would create the biggest impact with the least effort? That is the skill you start with. The toolkit in the description has all of this organized so you can revisit it without rewinding. Keep listening now, then download it later when you are ready to build your stack. Now let us talk about the trade-offs. Because skill stacking is not a magic shortcut. It requires intentional decisions about what you will focus on and what you will ignore. Chapter 3: The Trade-offs of Skill Stacking. Skill stacking is not a magic shortcut. It requires trade-offs. Let us talk about what you are actually committing to. Tool 7: Time Budgeting for Skill Acquisition. What it is: being honest about how much time you actually have to learn new skills and allocating that time strategically instead of overcommitting to 10 different things. Most people fail at building a skill stack not because they lack ability, but because they lack realistic time budgets. Here is what usually happens. Someone gets excited about skill stacking. They make a list of 5 skills they want to learn. Business, marketing, coding, design, public speaking. They buy books, sign up for courses, and tell themselves they will dedicate an hour a day to learning. Week 1 goes well. They are motivated. Week 2 is harder. Work gets busy. Week 3, they miss a few days. By week 4, they have stopped entirely. 6 months later, they have made zero progress on any skill. The problem is not motivation. The problem is bad time budgeting. You need to choose 2 or 3 skills maximum and ignore everything else. When to use it: when you are excited about skill stacking but at risk of spreading yourself too thin. You need to choose 2 or 3 skills maximum and ignore everything else. Example: you work full-time and have 2 hours a week for skill building. That is 100 hours a year. You could spend that trying to learn 5 new skills and make no meaningful progress in any of them. Or you could focus on 1 amplifier skill for 6 months and 1 differentiator skill for the next 6 months. By the end of the year, you will be competent in 2 new areas instead of mediocre in 5. Let me break down the math. If you have 100 hours a year and you split it across 5 skills, that is 20 hours per skill. 20 hours is not enough to become competent at anything. You will learn the basics, maybe finish a beginner course, but you will not be good enough to apply it in real work. But if you take those 100 hours and dedicate 50 hours to 1 skill, you will go from beginner to competent. You will not be an expert, but you will know enough to solve real problems. That is the difference between knowing about something and being able to use it. 7-day mini experiment. Track your actual available time this week. Write down how many hours you realistically have for skill building after work, family, and rest. Be honest. Then choose 2 skills from this audiobook and calculate how long it will take to get decent at them if you dedicate that time. Adjust your expectations based on reality. Do not lie to yourself about time. If you have 30 minutes a week, admit that. Then plan accordingly. 30 minutes a week is 26 hours a year. That is enough to get decent at 1 skill if you focus. It is not enough for 3 skills. Common failure mode and fix. People overestimate how much time they have and underestimate how long it takes to learn something. The failure mode is starting 5 things and finishing none. The fix is to cut your ambitions in half. Pick 2 skills, commit fully, and ignore everything else for the next 6 months. Tool 8: Opportunity Cost and Career Pivots. What it is: recognizing that choosing to build a skill stack means saying no to other paths. If you spend time learning business skills, you are not spending that time becoming the top 1% in your current field. You need to be okay with that trade-off. This is the tool nobody wants to talk about, but it is the most important one. Every decision you make about your career is also a decision to not do something else. When you choose to stack skills, you are choosing not to specialize deeply in one area. When you choose to go wide, you are choosing not to go deep. Neither path is wrong. But you have to choose. Most people try to keep all options open. They want to specialize and stack skills. They want to climb the corporate ladder and start a side business. They want stability and freedom. You cannot have everything. You have to choose based on which trade-off you can live with. When to use it, when you are torn between doubling down on your current path or building a stack. This tool forces you to choose based on which strategy gives you the career and life you actually want. Example, a software engineer could spend the next 3 years becoming an expert in a niche programming language and potentially land a high-paying job at a specialized firm. Or they could spend that time learning business and marketing, build a small software product, and sell it for consistent revenue. Both paths work, but they lead to different outcomes. One gives you a job. One gives you ownership. You have to choose. Let me paint both scenarios clearly. Path 1. You specialize deeply in one technical skill. You become one of the top experts in your niche. You get hired by a top company. You make $200,000 to $300,000 per year. You have stability, benefits, and a clear career path. But you are still trading time for money. Your income is capped by your salary. If your niche becomes obsolete, you start over. Path 2. You stack business and marketing onto your technical skills. You build a small software product. You spend 2 years struggling, making no money, learning how to sell and market. Eventually, you get traction. You generate $100,000 a year in revenue. Then $200,000. Then $500,000. You own the asset. You control your time. Your income is not capped. But you have no stability, no benefits, and constant uncertainty. Which outcome excites you more? Which risk can you tolerate? That is the decision. Neither is better. They are just different. 7-day mini experiment. Write down your 2 main career options. For each option, write the best case outcome in 5 years and the worst case outcome. Which worst case can you live with? Which best case excites you more? That clarity will tell you whether to stack or specialize. This is not about what sounds impressive. This is about what you actually want your life to look like. Do you want a high salary and stability? Specialize. Do you want ownership and control? Stack and build. Do you want flexibility and multiple income streams? Stack. Do you want deep expertise and recognition in one field? Specialize. Common failure mode and fix. People try to keep all options open and commit to nothing. The failure mode is dabbling forever without making real progress. The fix is to make a decision, commit for 6 months, and evaluate. You can always change paths later, but you cannot make progress without committing now. Tool 9, Energy Management and Avoiding Burnout. What it is, understanding that learning new skills while working full-time is taxing. You need to manage your energy, not just your time. If you burn out, you will quit before seeing results. Time management is important. But energy management is more important. You can have all the time in the world, but if you are exhausted, you will not learn anything effectively. Your brain needs energy to absorb new information, practice new skills, and stay motivated through the difficult parts. Most people approach skill building like a sprint. They go hard for 2 weeks, burn out, and quit. Then they feel guilty, restart a month later, burn out again, and the cycle repeats. That is not a skill-building problem. That is an energy management problem. When to use it? When you are tempted to hustle harder, learn faster, or sacrifice sleep to stack skills more quickly. This tool reminds you that sustainable progress beats short bursts of intensity. Example: someone tries to learn business, marketing, and coding simultaneously while working 50 hours a week. They last 3 weeks before burning out and quitting entirely. Someone else picks one skill, dedicates 30 minutes a day, and sticks with it for 6 months. The second person makes real progress. The first person makes none. Here is why energy management matters more than time management. If you have 2 hours available but you are mentally drained, you will spend those 2 hours staring at the screen, rereading the same paragraph, and retaining nothing. You will feel like you put in the time, but you learned nothing. If you have 30 minutes available but you are alert and focused, you will absorb more in that 30 minutes than in 2 exhausted hours. The goal is not to maximize time. The goal is to match your learning schedule to your energy peaks. 7-day mini experiment. This week, pay attention to when your energy is highest. Morning? Evening? Lunch break? Schedule your skill-building time during those high-energy windows instead of forcing it at the end of the day when you are exhausted. Test if consistency improves. Most people schedule skill building for the end of the day because that is when they have free time. But by the end of the day, they are mentally drained from work. So they force themselves to learn when their brain is at 20% capacity. If you can shift skill building to a high-energy window, even if that window is smaller, you will learn faster and stay consistent longer. Common failure mode and fix. People think more effort equals faster results. The failure mode is burning out and quitting. The fix is to build a schedule you can maintain for 6 months, not 6 weeks. Slow and steady beats intense and unsustainable. Chapter 4. Prototyping your skill stack. You do not need to master 2 or 3 skills before combining them. You can start testing your stack as soon as you are decent at each piece. Tool 10. The minimum viable stack. What it is: building the smallest version of your skill stack that lets you test if your combination creates value in the real market. You do not wait until you are ready. You test with what you have now. This is the most important tool in the entire audiobook. Everything up to this point has been preparation. This is where you actually test if your skill stack works. Most people spend years learning skills but never test if those skills create value when combined. They wait until they feel fully qualified. They wait until they have taken every course, read every book, and practiced enough to feel confident. That day never comes. The only way to know if your skill stack works is to test it in the real world with real people who have real problems. When to use it: as soon as you have basic competence in 2 skills. You do not need to be an expert. You just need to be good enough to solve a real problem for one person. Here is what basic competence looks like. You understand the fundamentals. You can explain the key concepts. You can execute a simple version of the skill without hand-holding. You are not world-class, but you are no longer a beginner. For most skills, basic competence takes 20 to 50 hours of deliberate practice. That is 30 minutes a day for 2 to 3 months. Not years. Months. Once you hit that threshold with 2 skills, you are ready to test. Example: a project manager who learns basic data analysis does not need to become a data scientist. They can start by building one automated report for their team, saving everyone 3 hours a week. That small prototype proves the value of their stack. From there, they can iterate and improve. Let me give you the exact steps for building a minimum viable stack. Step 1. Pick 2 skills you are now competent at. Your anchor skill and one amplifier or differentiator. Step 2. Identify one specific problem that requires both skills to solve. Do not think big. Think small. One problem. One person. One outcome. Step 3. Build the smallest version of the solution. It does not need to be polished. It does not need to be perfect. It just needs to work well enough to solve the problem. Step 4. Give it to one person for free or at a steep discount. Get feedback. Did it solve their problem? What worked? What did not? What would they pay for this? Step 5. Adjust based on feedback. Then test again with another person. That is it. You are not launching a business. You are not building a portfolio. You are just testing if your combination of skills creates value that people care about. 7-day mini experiment. Take your anchor skill and your first amplifier skill. This week, create one small project that combines both. It could be a sample, a case study, a free consultation, or a side project. The goal is not perfection. The goal is proving that your combination works. Do not overthink this. Pick something you can finish in a few hours. A 1-page document. A 10-minute presentation. A simple spreadsheet. A short video. Whatever combines your 2 skills in a way that solves a problem. Common failure mode and fix. People wait until they feel fully qualified before testing their stack. The failure mode is spending years learning but never shipping anything. The fix is to ship something small and imperfect this week. You will learn more from one real project than from 10 courses. Tool 11. Collecting data and iterating. What it is: treating your skill stack as an experiment. You test, collect feedback, and adjust. You are not committed to your first version. You iterate based on what the market tells you. Most people build their skill stack based on what they think will work. Then they stick to that plan even when the market tells them something different. That is ego, not strategy. The market does not care about your plan. The market cares about what solves problems effectively. Your job is to listen to what the market values and adjust accordingly. When to use it: after you launch your minimum viable stack. This tool helps you figure out which skills to deepen, which to drop, and where the real demand is. Here is how iteration works in practice. You build your first prototype. You think skill A plus skill B will be valuable. You test it with 3 people. 2 of them say, "This is useful, but what I really need is more of skill C." The third person says, "I do not care about skill A at all. Can you just do skill B and skill C together?" That is data. Now you have a choice. You can ignore that feedback and keep building what you originally planned. Or you can pivot based on what people actually want. The smart move is to pivot. Example: a designer who adds copywriting to their stack offers a combined service. They charge for both design and copy. After 3 projects, they realize clients value their copywriting 3x more than their design. They pivot, double down on copywriting, and add strategy as their next skill. They did not plan that path. They discovered it by testing. Let me give you a real scenario. Someone starts with graphic design as their anchor skill. They add basic marketing knowledge as their amplifier. They think they will offer design plus marketing strategy for small businesses. They do 3 free projects to test. The first client loves the design but does not implement any of the marketing advice. The second client barely looks at the design but asks for more help with email marketing. The third client is happy with everything but says, "Can you also help me write the copy for these emails? I do not know what to say." That is the market telling them something. The design is nice to have. The marketing strategy is interesting but not urgent. The email copywriting is a real pain point that people will pay to solve. If they listen to that feedback, they should pivot. Drop the design. Keep the marketing. Add copywriting. That new stack, marketing plus copywriting, has more demand than the original plan. 7-day mini experiment. After your first prototype, ask 3 people for honest feedback. What did they value most? What was unnecessary? What would they pay more for? Use that data to decide where to focus next. Do not ask, "Did you like it?" That question gets polite answers. Ask specific questions. Which part saved you the most time? Which part could I remove and you would not notice? If you could only keep one element, which would it be? Those questions get real data. Common failure mode and fix. People ignore feedback because it does not match their original plan. The failure mode is sticking to a stack that does not create value because you already invested time in it. The fix is to follow the demand. If the market tells you one skill is more valuable than you thought, adjust. Tool 12. Building in public and creating proof. What it is: sharing your progress, your projects, and your learning journey publicly. This builds credibility, attracts opportunities, and forces you to ship consistently. This is the most uncomfortable tool for most people. It is also the most valuable. Building in public means documenting what you are learning, what you are building, and what you are testing, and sharing it where others can see. Most people think they need to wait until they are an expert before sharing anything. They think, "Who am I to teach this? I just started learning." That mindset keeps you invisible. Here is the truth. You do not need to be an expert to share what you are learning. You just need to be one step ahead of the people you are helping. If you are learning business basics, you can help someone who has never thought about pricing strategy. If you are learning basic coding, you can help someone who does not know where to start. If you are learning marketing, you can help someone who has never run an ad. The act of sharing forces you to clarify your thinking, stay consistent, and build proof that you know what you are doing. When to use it: as soon as you start building your stack. You do not need to wait until you are an expert. Documenting your process is often more valuable than showcasing finished work because it shows you can learn and adapt. Example: A developer learning marketing starts a blog where they document what they are testing, what works, and what fails. Over 6 months, they publish 20 posts. Those posts attract consulting inquiries from other developers who want to learn marketing. The blog becomes the proof that their skill stack is valuable. Let me give you the exact process for building in public. Step 1. Choose one platform where your ideal audience already spends time. LinkedIn, Twitter, a blog, YouTube, a niche forum. Pick one. Do not try to be everywhere. Step 2. Commit to posting once a week for 3 months. That is 12 posts. Not a huge commitment. Step 3. Document what you are learning. Share one lesson, one mistake, one experiment, or one tool every week. Keep it short. 300 words or 1 minute of video is enough. Step 4. Do not pitch yourself. Just share what you are learning. The goal is to be helpful, not to sell. Step 5. Engage with anyone who comments or reaches out. Building in public is not broadcasting. It is starting conversations. Here is what happens over time. You post consistently for 3 months. Most posts get little engagement. That is normal. But a few posts resonate. A few people reach out. A few conversations turn into opportunities. 6 months in, you have 25 posts documenting your skill-building journey. That is proof. When someone asks, "Do you know how to do X?" you do not just say yes. You send them 3 posts where you explained how you learned X, tested X, and helped someone else with X. That proof is more valuable than any resume or credential. 7-day mini experiment. Choose one platform and commit to posting once this week about something you are learning. It could be a lesson, a mistake, or a small win. Do not overthink it. Hit publish. See if anyone engages. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait until you have something impressive. Just document one thing you learned this week and share it. Common failure mode and fix. People think they need a massive audience or polished content before sharing. The failure mode is staying invisible because you are not ready yet. The fix is to lower your standards and ship anyway. Your first 10 posts will be rough. That is fine. The act of posting is the skill you are building. The 7-day Rewire Plan and checklist. You have the framework. You have the tools. Now you need a plan to actually start building your skill stack this week. This is not a plan that takes months to see results. This is a plan that gets you moving today and gives you clarity by the end of the week. The goal is not to master anything in 7 days. The goal is to test if your chosen skills have potential, build your first prototype, and get real feedback. 7 days is enough time to make real progress if you stay focused. It is not enough time to overthink or procrastinate. That is why it works. Here is your day-by-day plan for starting your first skill stack. Day 1. Identify your anchor skill. Write down what you are already competent at. This is your foundation. Time, 15 minutes. Do not overthink this. What do you do professionally right now? What have you been doing for at least a year? What can you do without hand-holding? That is your anchor. Write it down. 1 sentence. I am competent at graphic design. I am competent at project management. I am competent at sales. Whatever it is, write it down and move on. Day 2. Choose one amplifier skill from the tools we covered. Pick the skill that would make your anchor skill more valuable in the market. Time, 20 minutes. Go back through the tools. Business literacy. Communication. Writing. Marketing. Technical skills. Psychology. Which one, if you added it to your anchor skill, would create the biggest impact? Not the one that sounds coolest. Not the one everyone else is learning. The one that would make your current work more valuable. Write it down. I will add business literacy to my design skills. I will add marketing to my development skills. Whatever you choose, write it down and commit. Day 3. Find one resource for learning that amplifier skill. It could be a book, a course, a YouTube channel, or a podcast. Consume the first piece of content. Time, 30 minutes. You are not trying to learn everything. You are trying to get oriented. What are the key concepts? What are the basics? What should you focus on first? Spend 30 minutes consuming content. Then stop. You will continue tomorrow. Day 4. Write down 3 ways your anchor skill and amplifier skill could combine to solve a problem someone would pay for. Be specific. Time, 20 minutes. This is where you start thinking like a business owner, not a learner. If you are a designer learning business, how could you solve a problem that regular designers cannot? Maybe you could help businesses figure out what design they actually need based on their revenue goals, not just aesthetic preferences. If you are a developer learning marketing, how could you solve a problem that regular developers cannot? Maybe you could build and launch a product, not just code it. Write down 3 specific problems your combination could solve. Be concrete. Day 5. Build a minimum viable prototype that combines both skills. This could be a sample project, a case study, or a free service for one person. Time, 1 hour. This is the most important day. You are building something. Do not aim for perfect. Aim for done. Can you create one thing that demonstrates your combination of skills? A 1-page document. A simple prototype. A short video. A free consultation. Pick something you can finish in 1 hour and finish it. Day 6. Share your prototype with 3 people and ask for feedback. What worked? What did not? What would they value most? Time, 30 minutes. Send your prototype to 3 people. Friends, colleagues, potential clients. Anyone who might have an opinion. Ask specific questions. Would this save you time? Would you pay for something like this? What part is most useful? What part is unnecessary? Collect the feedback. Do not defend your work. Just listen and write down what they say. Day 7. Based on the feedback, decide your next step. Will you deepen one of your skills? Add a 3rd skill? Pivot your combination? Write down your decision and commit to it for the next 30 days. Time, 15 minutes. Review the feedback from day 6. What did you learn? Did people value what you thought they would? Did they care about something you did not expect? Based on that data, decide what to do next. Then commit to that path for 30 days. And here is the 2-minute version. Pick one skill that would amplify what you already do. Find one resource and start learning it today. Spend 30 minutes consuming content. Repeat daily for 1 week. That is it. This is exactly what the toolkit is for. So keep listening now, then use the checklist later when you are at your desk. Closing summary. Let me give you the 3-bullet recap. 1. Competing to be the top 1% in one skill is often the hardest path to 6 figures. The competition is brutal, the time investment is massive, and one wrong shift in your industry can wipe out years of progress. You are betting everything on one skill staying valuable and you reaching the top before someone else does. For most people, that is a bad bet. 2. Skill stacking lets you combine 2 or 3 complementary skills that are individually above average. Good plus good often beats excellent in the real market because your combination is rare. Instead of fighting for scraps in an overcrowded field, you create a new category where you are one of the few people who can deliver that specific combination. You do not need to be world-class at anything. You just need to be decent at a few things that work well together. 3. You do not need to master anything before testing. Learn just enough to be decent, build a prototype, collect data, and iterate. The market will tell you which skills to deepen. Most people spend years preparing and never ship. You can make real progress in 6 months if you test early and adjust based on feedback. Let me be clear about what this audiobook is not promising. This is not a shortcut that requires no effort. You still have to learn new skills. You still have to put in the hours. You still have to test, fail, and improve. This is not a guarantee that you will make 6 figures immediately. Your results depend on which skills you choose, how well you apply them, and how effectively you position yourself in the market. What this audiobook is promising is a smarter path. Instead of spending 10 years trying to become the best in one field, you can spend 2 years becoming decent at 3 skills and create a combination that is rare and valuable. Instead of competing with thousands of people who do exactly what you do, you compete with a few dozen people who have your specific combination. Instead of hoping your one skill stays valuable forever, You build flexibility so you can adapt when markets shift. That is the promise. A smarter path to higher earnings with less risk and more control. Your concrete next step for today is this. Choose one amplifier skill from this audiobook. Commit to learning it for the next 7 days. Spend 30 minutes a day consuming content, then build one small prototype by the end of the week. Do not wait until Monday. Do not wait until you finish your current project. Start today. 30 minutes. One resource. One skill. That is all you need to do. Subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell. And check out the free toolkit in the description so you do not have to take notes. And share this with one friend who feels stuck at their current income level and is not sure how to break through. Once they learn how to stack skills strategically, they will stop competing in overcrowded markets and start building a combination that commands higher pay. Thanks for listening.